Are you ready for some silliness? Are you ready for some laughter? Are you ready to read a book that is enjoyable, that makes you smile, that makes you laugh so hard you cry? Um, there's a couple of books in this series, especially Wheel of Fortune, book 412. You'll have to go back and check that video out in my videos of last year when we were binging this series. I laughed so hard I had to spend some time in the toilet. That's why I read most of the book, because it was that funny. It had me laughing that hard that I lost control of my bodily functions. So, anyways, so let's just sit back and do some reading here and enjoy our silly book. This is book 22, I believe. I will stand corrected if I get it wrong, in the Fortune Mystery Series. And this is Flame and Fortune. And I am Christina, Kristina. This is the D. Louise book series. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects going on here, no theme music, nothing special, just me reading books, talking books. And please hit the like and subscribe. Let me know I'm doing a good job. If everybody had subscribed, I'd have over, if everybody that watched my video, if one person who watched every single video would like my videos, I'd have over 500 subscribers by now, but that's not happening. I lost my train of thought. So I could get 200 by St. Patrick's Day, maybe, or maybe 1,000 by Christmas. Wouldn't that be awesome? We never know. But I'm starting a new thing. I hope you checked it out. Doing if you like this author, then you might like these authors on Fridays after Star Trek Friday. Which I used to ride the wave of Star Trek Friday. We'd go really up, we'd go way up, and then it'd come down very gradually, slowly in my analytics. Well, the past couple of Star Trek episodes have sunk 6 ways to Sunday. It's a big, huge thinker. Now I tank on Fridays. So I'm hoping if then helps improve it. If you like this author, maybe you like these. We've done a few episodes, so I hope you'll check those out. Our first one was the Bridgertons. If you like Julia Quinn's Bridgertons, maybe you'll like the Mallorys and the Sinsters, and we talk about other authors there. And we're also doing Flashback Monday. Please check that out. We're into 2009, so we're doing some authors there. And then, of course, my daily book reviews. So are we ready to have a enjoyable, funny read with me on our Flame and Fortune? Like I said, this is book 22. Fortune is a former CIA agent who was originally hanging out in Sinful to avoid an arms dealer had a hit on her, and she came under assumed identity, and most of that was solved by book 14 or so. And now she's living there as herself, as a private investigator, and she's formed the Swamp Team 3. I should write down that card, but it wasn't mentioned in here at all. They weren't hired by anybody to do something in this particular book, so that's okay, I guess. Sorry. Ida Bell is her friend, and Gertie is her friend. Gertie provides our comic relief. Gertie is dating Jeb at the moment. We really don't see too much of him. Ida Bell is married recently to Walter, the owner of the general store. She's also president of the Sinful Ladies, and their arch enemy is Celia Arsenault, who is president of God's Wives, and their main issue or reason for living or existing is to one-up each other. That's their main thing. Then we have Carter, the deputy sheriff, we keep waiting for the 104-year-old original sheriff to die so that Carter can make some changes to his office and get some help. And we have Allie, her best friend, her young best friend, who's opened a new bakery and who's got a new guy, Manny, who works with the Herberts, who are our little undercover mob guys, sort of, kind of, sort of, kind of. And we haven't seen too much of them lately, but we are getting to know Manny and Allie working as a couple. And we also have Ronald, who is Fortune's cross-dressing gay neighbor, who used to have some issues with Fortune, but now that he's got to know her, he enjoys the heck out of her, and he really likes her a tremendous amount. What are you doing? There's a child here. There she is. And she does one of these. She's washing her paw, she's washing her paw, she's washing her face, she's putting her hand under her collar and whips it across the room. I got it on camera once. But anyways, there's going to be a New Year's Eve pageant. And Gertie and Ida Bell want Fortune to participate because Fortune will win the contest. But Fortune doesn't want to wear a dress. She doesn't want to have to push the girls up. She doesn't want to have to look all sexy. Fortune would rather be in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt. But they convinced her to do this. And they ask Ronald to go with them to New Orleans to a fancy schmancy boutique to get the dress. Because Ronald is the fashion designer. So they go in and she says they're in the store, they're in the boutique, and she says, I headed back into the sitting room and announced, my friend Allie said to get something that matches my eyes. That way they look like tinted ice. Daphne and Ronald froze and stared at me. I was just about to suggest someone check their pulses when they both whirled and ran from the room. I saw it first, Ronald said. It's my store, Daphne argued. A couple of seconds later, they were back with a turquoise sequin dress. It had tiny straps, a plunging neckline, and a pretty much non-existent back. It had cutouts on each side of the waist and a hemline that would settle over my knees when standing, but with a split on both sides that would have had men drooling, women fueling, and Pastor Don praying. I grabbed the dress and headed into the room to give it another go, and darn if it didn't look good. So we do some dressing, and then Celia shows up. Celia huffed and then gave Ronald a derisive look before glaring at Ida Bell and Gertie. RJ gave me a once-over, apparently cluing in that I was her competition based on the results smirking. I had to assume she wasn't impressed. RJ is Celia's entry for Godwives into the beauty pageant, and Fortune is Sinful Lady's entree into the beauty pageant. So she's the competition. She's built like a boy, RJ said, and leaned against the door frame, clearly bored. Since brains aren't stored in your chest, I'm good, I said. Ronald sniffed and pointed to the rear of the store. There's a discount rack in the back for your discount queen. RJ stiffened and gave Ronald a dirty look. Only full price for the real deal, honey. Ronald snorted. Honey, you could make Gucci look cheap. Why would you use What did you use for highlights, paint stripper? It looks like we need to bale hay on your head. Bet she wears cheap underwear, I said, stroking the flames. Please, Ronald said. This one doesn't even own underwear. Ida Bell grinned. Hear that, Daphne? Don't let this one try anything on you unless you want cheap butt rubbing on your fine fabrics. I can't believe you're putting up with that disreputable thing up as queen, Celia said to Ida Bell. She's been a blight on Sinsville since the day she arrived, but then I shouldn't expect a show of class from the likes of you. Gertie opened her mouth to speak, but Ronald held up a hand. I got this, he said. He stared directly at Celia. You have always held the vote for the worst taste in clothes and behavior in the entire town. And because we're a God fearing community, everyone has put up with it. But now you're showing us all exactly how petty and nasty you are. Ronald waved a hand at me. This lady, and it's a shame we don't have more of them left in the world, is the person who exposed your daughter's killer and saved you from the same fate. And you have the audacity to disparage her? And they do some more back and forth vulturing. And then I laughed. Assault, Celia cried and looked over at Daphne, clearly panicked. Call the cops, she assaulted me. I didn't see anything, Daphne said as she checked her fingernails, but I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I don't think our store has anything for you. I laughed. She totally pretty woman Jew. RJ glared at me. Are you calling me a prostitute? Gertie shook her head. Pretty sure pros charge. I never liked you, you hateful old hag. RJ yelled and lifted the foam cup she was holding. The foam cup filled with red liquid in a high-end dress up. I tossed my shopping bag behind the counter and lunged for the cup just as RJ reached to take the lid off. Gertie had scrambled for the floor and it flung open. So in one fluid motion, I grabbed the cup, shoved RJ outside, then tossed the contents on her as she fell on the sidewalk. Celia ran for the door, shoving Gertie as she rushed outside. Gertie fell backward into the window display, and a shower of sequins and feathers rained down on her. Oh my God, Daphne screamed. Not the Valentino. Those feathers are hundreds of dollars. The distraught shop owner took one look at the collapsed display at as a disheveled Gertie rose up, with what I presumed were some of the ridiculously expensive feathers sticking to her head, then sprinted out the door and tackled RJ right as she stood up. That was a Super Bowl Sunday kind of move, Ida Bell said, as she leaned back against the counter and pulled a bag of peanuts out of her pocket. Ronald took one look at Gertie in the destroyed display and Daphne rolling around in the street, ruining her Dior, according to him, in what looked like a strawberry daiquiri, and passed out. While I was trying to decide which situation needed my attention the most, Celia waded into the grappling match out in the street and started swinging her purse at Daphne. And then, uh, as they headed out the door, Celia gave the purse a home run swing and hit Daphne's rear. The clasp broke and what looked like shrimp pie spilled out. A dog at the corner who'd been legs up in a coffin with his fake priest giving last rites when we passed earlier made a miraculous recovery and bolted out of the coffin and straight for the spoils. I figured he'd grab the random pie and be on his way. But apparently the purse contained a bigger score than the sidewalk. The dog leaped up and grabbed the bag and got into a tug of war with Celia. Ida Bell strolled out of the dress shop with a wrench, loosened the valve on the fire hydrant, and stepped back to finish her peanuts as the water gushed out. The stream was a direct hit on Celia and sent her sprawling into the street. The dog took that opportunity to bolt away with the purse, his owner running after him, waving his Bible in the air and yelling things that no priest would ever say. Celia had made an unfortunate sprawl with the hem of her skirt downstream of the blast. The bottom blew up and over her head while her big underwear proceeded to give the king of all wedgies. Two teen hustlers who'd been working the street doubled over laughing. "Hey, lady," one of them said, "I can tell you where you got them shoes and when." So they have some more antics, and at some point, they've had previous cases in New Orleans, and they've gotten to know some of the local cops down there. And one of their cop friends showed up. Um, Yeah, there's a thing, I said. Casey raised one brow. There's always a thing, but women who look like you don't need an evening gown to get it. God, isn't that the truth? Ronald said as he sidled up and clutched my arm for support. Life is humongously unfair. It's more of a sinful women's group rivalry than that thing that has a betting pool attached, I said. Casey said, "So a gang thing. Walking on the wild side there, Redding. What's the rivalry? Who can we find the most sequins?" "I've been coerced into wearing an evening gown, and my Queen of the New Year's representing the Baptists. My competition is put up by the Catholics. Hottest queen wins." Casey stopped laughing and her jaw dropped. "Comeback? I get the biggest cut of the betting pool, a couple cases of beer, and housekeeping for 2 months," I said, and motioned to Celia. "That, along with making sure the scourge on sinful loses, has spurred me into participating in the madness." "So there's still a chance of a homicide," Casey said. "I'd give it better than a chance," Ida Bell said. "I have to push my boobs up," I said. Casey shook her head. "Just don't go for the stilettos. The last thing you need under those shoes is a weapon." Ronald rolled his eyes. "That whole killing with the stiletto thing is so retro Hollywood. People don't actually kill with their footwear." "Since killing a terrorist with a stiletto was exactly how I ended up in Sinful in the first place, Ida Bell, Gertie, and I just maintained silence." Ronald looked at the three of us, his expression shifting from aggrieved to hollified. "Please tell me they weren't designer," he said. "Prada," I said. The blood rushed from Ronald's face, and he fanned his face with his hand. Casey laughed again. "On that note, I think I'll get back to work." And Celia's like, "Hey, what about this? I want them arrested." And Casey's like, "No, I'm a homicide detective. Goodbye." So we have the parade, and someone tosses a cigarette onto RJ's float, and it catches on fire, and Fortune comes to the rescue and puts it out. In the meantime, RJ's ex-boyfriend, I guess, is in town, and apparently they've got a deal. They're singers, but apparently RJ has lost her voice, and her boyfriend Brock are gonna score big with this TV show that wants to um, get their music rights. And they've got a dispute between themselves on who actually got the music rights, because who's, instead of being fair and just splitting it down the middle, the two lovers are fighting and quarreling over who should get the piece of the pie. And in the midst of all this, the gentleman boyfriend gets killed. And it's made to look like an overdose of heroin, but he's been hit over the head too. So we have to investigate all that, and we have to have some funniness too. And I will leave you with the Gertie actually does. They go to the party for New Year's, and Gertie actually gets it in her butt to ride the pole. And apparently, there's a cat that likes dangling things. Do you think a cat likes dangling things? Things that dangle from the ceiling, and there's strips that they can attack and play with. She went straight to the counter, picked up the coffee pot, and started to drink straight from it. Oh, so Gertie had this big night, and she did the poll. She was also very liquored up. This is the next morning. I missed the other part, and we'll just let it go at that. You all right? I asked. She looked at me clearly confused. All right, God, Lord, woman, that was the most fun I've had since Ida Bell's bachelorette party. I'm still basking in New Year's glow. Ida Bell shook her head. You're basking in stale alcohol and cat hair. Well, if you drag me out of bed at the crack of dawn, then make me leave the house before I shower, you get potluck, Gertie said. First off, Ida Bell said, you were lying across the entry rug. If I weighed a pound more, I wouldn't have been able to squeeze in the door. And you're the only one who's declared walking all the way to your bathroom was too much work. You said you'd worried about it later, and much to the dismay of everyone who gets within 10 feet of you. Frances said I smelled great, Gertie said. Frances is her parrot. Um, um, I think he's what's that bird called? I can't think of it now. The big a cockatoo. I think he's a cockatoo, but I'm not exactly sure. They haven't really said. But I think he's a cockatoo. Francis said I smelled, and he talks a lot. And he was owned by Mob, guys, and he has a ton of, oh my God, what did he just say stuff. And he's in love with grapes. Absolutely loves grapes. Francis said I smelled great, Gertie said. He said he smelled grapes, Ida Bell said. You were lying on the top of a bag of them. I rose from the table and grabbed my spare coffee pot from the pantry. I'll just make another round with the strongest stuff I've got. So while you were sleeping on the entry rug, I thought Jeb and Wyatt were both staying at your house last night and driving back home today. And they talk more about it. I think there's so many funny moments in here. You will have to check them out. And I hope you will like this book. And you have the twists and turns. It's a little multi-layered. We get a lot of information on the players. And there's only one murder. There's a couple of attempted murders. Our friendly guy at the motel, he's become inspired by Fortune and all her angst, and he's got a code name now. He's Shadow Chaser, and he wants to be a detective. Although when he sees a client or a hotel guest naked, he gets a little flustered. But so I don't know if he'll be able to handle it or not. But if you'll please check the like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this book as I do. And if you want a really good laugh, go start reading the whole series from the beginning, especially Wheel of Fortune, Book 12. There is nothing funnier than Ida Bell jumping out of a plane and pulling off a nun's habit to expose that she's wearing a Rolling Stones t-shirt with the big tongue on it. I laughed so hard, I lived in the bathroom that whole book. So now that I've embarrassed myself for the entire world, please hit the like and subscribe, and we're going to get on to some Patterson. We're going to get on to some Star Trek, Flashback Monday, and If Then. Thank you.